Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. I am recording my video today in the car because it's loud in the house right now. You got the football game going, you got just so much noise. And that's what it is when you live with family, and that's okay. So, also thank you for hanging tight and waiting for this video. It was supposed to come out last week, but just needed to take a break for personal reasons. But now I'm back. So my topic is modern feminism and why I feel and believe it's a hoax. So if you don't know, I was a stripper for about 10 years, and then I was a femdom wrestler and dominatrix for the remaining 3 to 5 years in total. And while all of those occupations brought me empowerment in different ways, it was towards the end that I started to see it for what it really was, or rather why I was in that femdom world. So, like I stated in my previous video, I was abused as a child, grew up in the foster care system, wicked stepdad, all that stuff, and hardcore Christian, all that. And so I was growing up with a toxic view on God, Jesus, Christianity, and also a toxic view on the woman's role and where she fits and what all her function in life in the home and society really is. So, without further ado, here we go. So, personally, I have experienced a lot of, I don't want to call it nitpicking, but it's more or less, women, we can be really hard on each other. So you want to cry feminist, 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 and work really hard and get that job and get that education, and now you can be neck and neck with men, which that in itself is a great thing. I'm so glad as the Western civilization, we have, evolved as a whole from 1848, from the first actual march and also meeting, where over 300 men and women gathered at Seneca Falls and rallied for the cause of equality for women. And, as we all know, women have not been equal this entire time, which is why we're here at this point. But now that we're in modern day, we're pretty equal. We can vote just like the men. We can make as much money as men. We can now be seen as respected if we decide to put out exploitative pictures of ourselves and music. How about that WAP song with Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion? And those are just a few examples of modern feminism and where we are as a whole, and how I feel it's become toxic. It's no longer something that we need to fight for. And first and foremost, no woman has shed her blood for it. There's never been any wars over it. Yes, there's been rallies. Yes, there's been marches. Yes, there's been the burning of the bras and all of those different things. And it was needed at different times for our voices to be heard and seen as equal and not written off as, oh, it's just the woman speaking. But here we are in present day, and I look around and I see this, this gender neutral agenda that's happening. And while, that might be good for somebody and that's them being true to themselves and more power to them, when I look around at a lot of ads and commercials, and what's really, really being pushed here is the feminizing of our masculine men. Men are being attacked. And yeah, this is a man's world and all that stuff, and toxic masculinity is a real thing, but that doesn't mean every single last man is like that, or that we should down any man for being strong, a Christian, or Muslim or Catholic, whatever his stance is. If he's solid in who he is, he's seen as a threat. And that's not okay. If you're truly, about women's rights and everything, then you should see that, or you should also be about the equality of men. It was about equality. It wasn't about women becoming dominant in the society. We were fighting so long for equality. That's what it comes down to. So first things first, before I get into my research-based facts, I just want to talk about how harsh we as women can be to each other. So you're the career woman, or I should say, you're the radical feminist, and you got your career and you've worked really hard and you also make six figures just like your man does, and that's wonderful. But more times than not, you're the same woman who looks down on women like me, who have worked in the adult entertainment industry, who hold your nose up at women like me. Just because you don't do the same exact things that I have done, your shit still don't smell like roses. I can't tell you how many women who are supposed to be in the art industry and who are supposed to be hippie type women, and who, let alone also professional women who held their, looked at me, oh, well, you do that stuff. Well, you do that stuff. You're that kind of lady. So, what you have to say doesn't matter or how you feel just doesn't matter. And stop right there. That's the opposite of feminism, of working so hard and fighting for equality. If I'm your sister, sis this and sis that, and if you see that I might be hurting, or if you see that I might be struggling, you're supposed to extend your hand and you're supposed to help me. You're not supposed to belittle me because, girl, you're not any better than me. Just because you sin differently than me doesn't mean your shit smells like roses, because it definitely doesn't. So, on to the next thing. What I've experienced, all of this stuff is just bullshit. It really actually is. And the truth is, we need to be balanced. We need to be equal. Men and women should be equal in all truth. Neither party should be toxic. And when one party does become toxic, we see how it affects us all. We see what happens to our society. We understand that feminism, the feminist movement that started back in actually the 14th and 15th century France, the first feminist philosopher, Christine de Pizan, I hope I'm saying that right, she challenged prevailing attitudes toward women with a bold call for female education. I mean, hey, that's medieval times. We know how terrible those times were, according to history, and how women certainly were not seen as equal at all. So yeah, there definitely was a time that, women needed to take the stand, so that way our voices can be heard and we can now be seen as equal. It's so funny that I can record this as a woman and have my voice be heard because of all the movements that have happened. I'm not oppressed in any way, shape, or form. I'm a mixed woman. I'm Spanish and Black, or African and Indian, however you want to look at it. And for a time, our people, Blacks, Indians, Spanish, whatever, had to work harder, fight harder. But now things are pretty balanced. We don't need to have this falsity that women are being oppressed. And furthermore, women of different cultures are still being oppressed. In the West, that is. I'm in America. I've lived in America my entire life. I can't speak for other countries. So just keep up with me here. So the first wave of feminism in the 19th and early 20th centuries focused on overturning legal inequalities, particularly addressing issues of women's suffrage. Like I already pointed out in the beginning of this recording, women are equal. We have a female woman, for those who don't like the term female. We have a woman vice president, Kamala Harris. I mean, that's besides the point. Whether or not I like her is besides the point, but the point is, she's there. And we have other countless women members of Congress. Not going to name any names, but there are women that are there. There are voices that are being heard. There are also, in our local government, women who are stepping up to the plate and becoming chairman and becoming all sorts of things. That's equal. We have our voice now. We have the ability to wear what we want, say what we want, go where we want, act however we want. So to me, this whole feminist movement is not real. We don't need to act like we're still being oppressed and our voices aren't heard. And so the second wave of feminism was in the 1960s and the 1980s. And that broadened the debate, the original debate, to include cultural inequalities, gender norms, and the role of women in society. And it's funny enough because those women who marched and who had all those voices to say those things failed to also include liberal or sex-positive feminists like my former self. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not anti-sex. I'm just saying that now how I view things, I don't want to exploit myself anymore. I don't want to have a hand in misleading young women down the wrong path. And my heart goes out to whoever I might have had a hand in that you know. But the big deal to me today is our masculine men are being forced or coerced into feeling like they can't stand their ground as strong protectors, providers. I'm going to tell you something. I played the strong woman role for so long. I've said, I don't need this and I don't need that. I don't need a man to take care of me. And the truth is, I don't need that, but I want that. I would like to experience that for the first time in my life as a 35-year-old grown woman. You know, I have a 15-year-old son, and that also makes things harder. I'm not people's top pick, you know. Oh, she's got baggage, she's got this. You know what? Yeah, I do. And I'm cleaning up my act, and I'm doing the best that I can with it. My son's excellent in school. He's got great grades. Anyways, this is not a pitch. That's not the point. The point is, women are equal. We have been equal for a long time, and whether you love him or hate him, Andrew Tate made a great point by saying our societies were built by men, and it's true. Now, I don't agree with everything that he said, and I'm not going to go be one of the 12 ladies that lives in his mansion or whatever, but like the points that he had about masculinity were fantastic. And also, if he's too harsh for you, if you can't stomach that fact, then Kevin Samuels. He's like a classier version of Andrew Tate, and how he just puts down the law. Like, men don't want a woman who is like a man. They don't want to date somebody who rivals them. And at one point in time, I thought that was the dumbest crap I ever heard. But I thought that because I was still in the midst of all my pain, instead of actually dealing with my pain. My push for feminism was rooted in the fact that I was abused by my stepdad. All of my foster moms have always been dominant women. Always. So my mind and my vision was warped in that way. And furthermore, it became even more warped the longer I was in the adult entertainment industry. It got towards the end, I realized it got so bad when guys couldn't even approach me to just ask me for directions to something that has zero to do with getting my phone number. Just even them asking me a simple question, I'd be in my mind like, oh, I know what he wants. He just wants to get in these pants. That's not true. He literally just wants directions to someplace and is up and left. That's it. So being too long in exploiting yourself, or being too long of being the headstrong career woman, warps your mind. And I'm saying that as somebody who, here I go again, another personal example. So someone that's in my family, that's close to me, I'm not going to say names or who they are, but this person was a career woman, had the ultimate career as a cop and everything, and had meltdowns all over me. Oh, you're hoe this and hoe that, slut this and slut that, because I was comfortable in my sexuality and I was fine in doing adult work. And it's not that I didn't apply myself. I was also a personal trainer and a bartender and all sorts of stuff. And I resorted to doing dancing and femdom wrestling because at times I really needed to make extra money. I was never a specific sex worker. I didn't sleep with multiple people, but nevertheless, those categories are still they're all mashed up into the same thing. They're still looked at and viewed at as, oh, she's a harlot, she's a this, she's a Jezebel. Whatever, that might have been true with how I would get my money. However, at least I was being true to myself, and I was being the best mother I could possibly be. I mean, I wouldn't flaunt that lifestyle in front of my son, but yeah, that's how I would make a lot of money. And it was just so funny because this person would also say to me, oh, I wish I was like you and sexually expressive like you. And this person's like 20 something years my senior, adopting the way that I would dress, adopting the way that I would talk. And as soon as it didn't fit her anymore, as soon as something new came up, which, for example, I had this photo shoot, which in my opinion was one of my most tasteful semi-nude photo shoots. I have no issue with calling myself out, okay? This was more on the classier end of things that I've done. And she sees this photo shoot. Mind you, I'm 34 at the time, not 4, not 17, 30 fucking 4. She sees my photo shoot and she loses her shit on me. You're supposed to ask me before you do stuff like that. You belong to me. You do what I say. You haul this, haul. And then dug even deeper, called me light-skinned names, all sorts of stuff. But society would view her as more reliable, opinion means more, status means more because she was an ex-cop. And it really was just like, okay. She's like the 50th career woman who's come at me sideways. Again, another example. My ex-boyfriend's mother, who swore up and down, she's like got this hippie approach and like free love and all this stuff, and then would also hold her nose up at me because I was into modeling and I was a dancer and all sorts of things like that. Which, any parent would feel skeptical if their son was dating a dancer. However, I didn't do that the entire time of our relationship. That was only in the beginning. And as we got more serious, I left that to take my relationship serious. So then I got back into bartending and serving so that way I could still bring money into the home. Nevertheless, this woman who swore up and down to be all accepting would make snide remarks every last chance she could get. Because she has education, so she's so much better than me. Bitch, your shit don't smell like roses. It doesn't matter what career you think you have. If your heart sucks, then you suck, period. So I just want this message to get out there. I don't agree with the modern feminist movement that's happening right now in our nation, in our country. I'm a strong-minded and emotionally strong woman, physically strong too. I would love to have a man who's stronger than me, who protects and provides, and I would love to experience that for the first time in my life. Whether or not that'll ever happen, I don't know. And also, I'm not particularly looking for it. I'm still on my healing journey, and I'm in no rush to get with anyone, any man. I'm just saying what I'd like to experience for once. As a woman who has said, I don't need a man, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna work, and prime example, I'm traveling across the nation for femdom wrestling and all that stuff, and while I had great times and I met wonderful women, having to leave my son with either my best friend or, well, she's no longer my best friend, but having to leave him with my best friend at the time or my sister would tear my soul to shreds. I hated it every single time, and anytime I'd get to a new hotel room before I'd have to go to the site for sessions or whatever event was happening, I'd cry my eyes out. Then you get to the nitty-gritty winters in New York, and they're awful. I basically had to be the Charles Ingalls and the Carolyn Ingalls, because not only would I go out and get the kill, but I'd also come back and make it and make sure my son was fed and clothed, and even if that meant at times I personally had to go without. So what I'm saying is, we don't need either sex to be over one or the other, especially in a toxic way. We need to be equally respected. And the females submit to men in a way, or the women submit to their men in a way where he's the protector, he's the provider. There's nothing wrong I don't see anything wrong with that. I think it's a beautiful, wonderful thing, and something that I'd love to experience. Also, stop hating on our men. Let our men be men. Let them. Because I tell you right now, if real men cease to exist, I'm out this bitch. I'm going to Mars. I'm going somewhere else. And those are my thoughts. I hope that was helpful and more insightful into me as a person. Thank you so much for your time. Please like and subscribe. Please leave your comments below, and I'll see you next time.